world is in a stage where trust is a very scarce resource. It's very common in crypto to get hacks, and what we're doing is making sure that the money involved is not at risk. So what is lacking on the internet? A way to make sure that you're actually a human being, because I think we do want to interact with human beings. You need a new authentication kind of system to make sure that happens.
How does the Ethereum as a blockchain work? Can anybody do that?
So,
RJ, thank you so much for being here in Korea, which I think is really cool because I understand you're from Argentina.
yeah.
So not every day that I get to meet an Argentinian founder. But maybe you can just talk to me a little bit about what you're working on right now, like as if maybe you could explain to me as if I'm a 6-year-old who doesn't understand anything about this industry. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but maybe it's better if you explain it.
Yeah. So thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of AlignLayer. We're a company that is building a stack. So anyone that wants to build on top of Ethereum, they have all the right tools they need. So with one simple click, they can start accessing the trust and the security of Ethereum. So we believe the world is in a stage where trust is a very scarce resource, and Ethereum is the best place in order to build where trust between humans is a bottleneck. So we're building the technology in order to allow people to build new protocols, applications, where trust can be solved with Ethereum, and finance is the first kind of step, right?
So when it comes to Ethereum, I think a lot of people know what Ethereum is, but I'm not entirely convinced that just the general public understands how the Ethereum sort of the technology works. So for example, people talk about things like gas fees. And so I understand that, for example, verification is quite of an expensive process. And then maybe you could explain why, first of all, what is a verification? What is a validation? How does the Ethereum as a blockchain work? Maybe you can explain the real basics.
Yeah. So I think it's important to, when we talk about verification and blockchains, it's important to understand the history, right? So we started with Bitcoin. That was the first blockchain. What it meant, it was a decentralized network where anyone can participate in order to make sure the accounting book of who owns how many coins can be decentralized. Anyone can participate and make sure that the bookkeeping is done correctly. So everyone should be able to verify that this accounting book was done correctly and we're in the right state.
So that verification is done by the community.
Yeah.
So not the same person who's doing it, but there's a separate reviewer.
There's no centralized party or authority that has the whole power of the network. It can be anyone. So what Bitcoin did was make sure money is a protocol, kind of like for communication or information would happen with the internet. It's a native way for money to move on the internet in a decentralized fashion. And this is important because the internet is global. So the rules for money in one country might be different from another one. But the internet doesn't know very well about localized or different countries. So if you want to move money around and create new applications on the internet for money, you need the same trust level across every single participant. So Bitcoin, in essence, created the first application, decentralized application for money. The issue was the only thing you could do with Bitcoin is have Bitcoin and move it, right? So some very smart people created Ethereum, and what they realized is, hey, I can have something similar, but instead of the application being money, it can be a computer. Any sort of computation that I can do in one computer should be replicated across every single node in the network. Now, this is super robust and secure. The main issue it has is that every single node of the network has to do the same task. So that means the slowest computer of the network is the speed at which the network moves.
So that's the bottleneck. That's the weakest link.
Yes,
right?
the
slowest, it just slows everything down.
Exactly. And at the same time, the word you mentioned that is key here is that you want this to be verifiable, that anyone should be able to participate and check that the rules are done correctly. So anyone in the world can say, hey, I trust this protocol because I can run it on my own. And especially in a world where things are getting crazy And trust is an issue because someone from Argentina has different rules than someone in Korea. But if we all agree on a protocol on the internet that we both can verify, it's easy for us to start exchanging or creating new ways of coordinating between each other. So verification is a very important attribute in this new internet, right? A verifiable internet. So if that's the case, what you want is people to be able to participate with some computers that are not very expensive. So with Ethereum, what it has been doing is prioritizing that you can run things on kind of like a computer that you can have in your home. What happened later is many new blockchains say, okay, it's okay that Ethereum is super verifiable, super decentralized, and everyone can join, but I want things to be cheap and fast, because if I have a very slow computer, my network moves very slow. So for example, you have Solana. What they did is, hey, I want the fastest blockchain I can have, and probably the cheapest I can get.
But centralized.
Yeah, so it centralized things a little more because you have bigger computers. But it still doesn't address the scalability problem. Like, you scale up until a certain point, and you can go really fast. But the more computers you add to a blockchain, it doesn't mean the faster it goes. But in Web 2, you have distributed systems and applications where the more computers you add, the more scalable it is. Because we have applications with billions of users, like WhatsApp, Facebook. I don't know. There are many applications that literally billions of human beings use it every day. So we know how to scale those systems. What Ethereum realized very early on is that what you could have is computers on top of Ethereum that show what they did was done with integrity. That everything they did was done correctly, and say, okay, I processed 100 transactions, but with one single transaction, I can show Ethereum, that is the slowest computer, that everything I did outside was done correctly. So by doing that, the more computers you add on top of Ethereum, the more transactions you can process. You start scaling horizontally, because you can add more companies, more computers that can process transactions on their own, and then just show to Ethereum, hey, this is everything I did today. Just check that what I did was correct. And they give like a certificate that is verified by Ethereum, by every single node of Ethereum. That's called an L2 or a rollup.
That's called rollup.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So it's like a digital certificate.
Yeah, a digital certificate, kind of like a signature that shows that things were done 100% correctly. And the only thing you need to know is the number of the block or the transactions that were used, and the program that Ethereum needs to run in order to verify things.
So can anybody do that?
So this is the interesting thing. Building this type of rollups was super expensive, and you needed a lot of research and money in order to make them into production. In the last 5 years, we had a lot of big teams that developed these things with different trade-offs and techniques, but running them was still very expensive. But what happened recently is that the technology many of these rollups use, that is called zero-knowledge proofs, has been getting really fast and really good. What is a zero-knowledge proof? It's a cryptographic technology that it allows to generate a certificate that a computation was done correctly. So let's say you run, in a computer that the only thing it does is multiplies. What this will do is I give you two numbers to multiply, you run it on your computer, and you give me a certificate that says, hey, I multiplied 2 times 2, and the answer is 4. Here's a certificate that shows I actually run this program, and this is the result. This technology in particular is getting so good and so fast that it's becoming the standard across how to scale Ethereum.
I kind of understand what you're saying just now, but even taking a step back, what is zero knowledge? Like, where does that even come from? Why did it just come out of nowhere? Like recently, you said, and then like, is that something that is used in cryptography or something like that? Yeah. Like the whole concept, how does that work in essence?
Yes, so zero-knowledge proofs are a special kind of cryptographic proofs in cryptography in general, outside of blockchain, but it has been widely adopted by blockchains, and I will explain a little bit why. So it's a technology that is fairly new, but it has been in research for, I don't know, maybe 30 years, 20 years. And the primitive of this is allowing a party to show to someone else that what they did was correct while keeping certain information between each other. So for example, I can prove you that I'm older than 18 without having to show you my whole ID. I just need to create or attest with a proof or a certificate that this is actually correct.
How does that work though? How do you prove that you're 18 by not showing your ID, but like convey that information while not having to show your ID?
So in this particular case, there are some companies that are working on this, and they use your passport, for example. So you run, for example, you scan your passport in your phone, and the phone generates a proof that's saying, hey, I read the passport, this is his passport, I scanned the information, and he is actually older than 18.
So it's some sort of like a password or key or mathematical sort of formula.
It's like running a computation on a computer, and you have something that is auditing that computation. So the certificate, what it shows is that you run this is not 100% correct, but the analogy will be you run a computation in a computer, and you have an auditor that is checking that everything that is being done in that computer is 100% correct. So then what you show is the auditor signing saying, hey, this is actually true. What he's saying, you can verify my signature for the auditor, and you can trust this computation.
But in that case, the auditor, people have to trust the auditor, right?
Yeah, the auditor is a computer program,
right?
That what it generates is the zero knowledge proofs. Yeah. You trust a very important point, that is, in all of these things need to be open source, because I need to check that the whole program you did, the proving that is generating the certificate and the verification, is coded correctly, is audited by other parties.
Right.
Anyone can check and improve it, find bugs.
Yeah.
That's the whole kind of ethos behind of the internet in itself. Like Linux, all of these things were the backbone for many of...
I see. So people have to be able to trust that open source that everybody has access to.
Exactly.
Therefore, they can agree on some sort of a protocol that, okay, if that was audited properly, then I know I have at least a trust that I can trust that.
Yeah. You're still trusting the software you're running.
Right.
But if it's open source, anyone can check.
Yeah.
You have the community of people that say, hey, this is correct. The person who created the program can pay an auditor that say, hey, I checked their code, everything is correct, works as it should. There's no backdoors. And that's kind of like a common standard in general in blockchain and in cryptography in general as well. Very important in critical systems like this, right?
So maybe I can think of another example, in a layman's term, which could be, so like, let's say you have a password that you don't necessarily want to reveal to other people. Like, I don't want you to know my password, but I just want to prove that I can unlock something with the password. So I show you that, oh, you know what? Okay, so I can open this thing. So you just understand the fact that I opened it.
Yeah.
Without me having to reveal what my password is. Is that sort of the right way of thinking about it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Is I can prove you that I know the password without having to show you the password. Now, here we're touching two things, right? One is privacy.
Yeah, exactly.
I can show you I know something without revealing that secret. There's secrecy.
Yeah.
Or confidentiality. But in blockchains, you can use it for privacy. That it has been something very important and is getting more adoption. But we especially use it for scalability, because that means I can keep certain information outside of a blockchain, but still show you things were done correctly. So that gives you scalability, because with one single proof, I can show you a bunch of stuff outside, and that is cheaper to verify the certificate than running all of this computation directly on the blockchain.
So right now, let's say without the aligned layer, the layer that you're working on, I know you said that because of zero knowledge proof, things are getting cheaper, but it's still pretty expensive?
Yeah.
Like, how expensive are we talking?
It's expensive if you're running these systems constantly, right? Because what you want is to put many computers on top of Ethereum. So verifying one single proof, a zero knowledge proof direct on Ethereum, it depends on the day because these things fluctuate, might be around $2, right? That's one. The problem is you don't want one per day. You want to run many of them. And the whole idea is to move the whole financial system on top of Ethereum. So that means millions of transactions per day.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. And Ethereum today can do maybe, before an upgrade, it was doing 13, it could verify 13 proofs per block. Now they made the blocks a little bigger, so it has a bigger capacity, but it still will not be able to fit the whole financial system on top of these things. And the Ethereum community is very ambitious. It wants to build a system that it can actually run all of these things, because we believe moving finance to Ethereum is critical and is important for the internet and for many people over the world.
So this is really just to, like, I hear the ambition part. So you guys are really wanting to scale Ethereum to the point that it can bear the entire financial system.
Yeah.
Which right now is probably nowhere near that.
It's not close to that, but we're on the right track.
Right.
I don't think there's a more ambitious project in itself in the internet more than Ethereum. Like, Ethereum has, by itself, the protocol in itself is impressive, right? What it built. It has billions of dollars already in liquidity.
Right.
Inside a system that is not run by one centralized authority, right? But at the same time, it has something that once you understand it, is very important, is the community has behind it of people who actually believe in its vision, are very ambitious. And what they want is, okay, we are not willing to give certain trade-offs. We want to build the best system we can in order to allow the whole thing to move directly on top of Ethereum. And it's not just finance. Because at the beginning, what I said is, this is all about trust. Zero-knowledge proofs solve a trust issue. Blockchains solve a trust issue as well. And if you can build a system that lowers the cost of trust between humans, the first thing you can do is make finance better. Because if things are cheaper to trust or generate trust, the whole financial system scales better and it's more inclusive. But at the same time, there are many other things that require trust, for example, between AI and humans, and these things could run on top of Ethereum as well, because it's going to be the base layer where we all agree that things work as they should, because everyone can verify it.
And so just because you mentioned Solana or even Bitcoin, why are they not able to do what Ethereum is capable of doing?
Yeah. So Bitcoin is because it's not programmable. There are some people now, what actually happened is very funny, that Ethereum put a lot of years in research and development in zero-knowledge proofs and rollups, and then other new technologies that we can explain as well. And now every single blockchain realized that the roadmap Ethereum has is actually the best roadmap. That what you need is rollups, that what you need is adopt zero-knowledge proofs as like a first-class citizen in your ecosystem.
Is that why Bitcoin, for example, recently had the Taproot upgrade to their protocol in 2021? And so now there are people building layer 2 on top of Bitcoin. And like there's just some innovation happening in that space. But I think that's all modeled after like the Ethereum protocol, right?
The Bitcoin kind of ecosystem realized that Bitcoin does one thing very well, and it changed the world. That is, store value, move value. But you can do more with your Bitcoin than just storing it and move it in between exchanges. You can build a new financial kind of ecosystem. And that's what L2s allow you. Because what you will be doing is putting a computer on top of Bitcoin. So now that things are very robust in the Ethereum ecosystem, Bitcoin is looking and saying, hey, maybe we can copy some of the stuff Ethereum is doing and do it out in our own way on Bitcoin, because they will help us scale, add things like privacy, and also allow us to build a financial ecosystem where we actually like the rules. Because when you use a centralized exchange like Binance, Coinbase, all of this, you're giving them your assets. But by using L2s and all of these things, you can build similar services to the ones they offer, but are verifiable and where you don't have any concerns regarding giving your assets, because they're still under your control.
So then why don't they just do that on Ethereum?
The issue is when you use Bitcoin or a representation of Bitcoin on Ethereum, is not actually 100% Bitcoin. It's an application that builds a representation of Bitcoin in the other blockchain.
Nice.
There's a middleman between that is receiving your Bitcoin and then minting or creating a new asset on Ethereum saying, hey, this is worth also 1 Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin community has different trade-off and values, and they are now putting out of time and effort on making sure how can they build their own L2s. So you can actually still use the native Bitcoin in all of these applications.
Right. But then I suppose people who are in the Ethereum sort of ecosystem to begin with, they know how to do all that stuff anyway already, right? So, and then, like I think Ethereum is no stranger to things going mainstream. I mean, we had the NFT craze. And so I think if any ecosystem is sort of like ripe for even more mainstream adoption, it is definitely Ethereum. But as you said, that the cost of like the transaction fee or the verification cost, it is still very expensive. So right now, if let's say there was no AlignLayer, can things sort of like incrementally change and then improve over time as far as the adoption, or is it going to stagnate?
So I think things will improve in the sense that the base protocol of Ethereum has a roadmap that is very ambitious in order to make things faster and cheaper, kind of like saying, okay, Solana took certain trade-offs that maybe we can start doing because computers got cheaper and faster. So my slowest computer got better. It got an upgrade by itself, just by hardware. So that's what recently the Ethereum community has been saying, hey, let's not be this stubborn about it. Technology improve. We can make sure the requirements of our computers are a little higher because computers improve as well. But at the same time, part of the things that Ethereum wants to achieve requires certain tooling and services that need to be built by third parties on top of Ethereum. So one of the things that we realized very early on is, okay, we know that zero-knowledge proofs are the best way in order to build rollups, in order to scale Ethereum. If we are going to have thousands of these computers running on top of Ethereum generating proofs, the bottleneck will still be verifying all of them. So we started our journey by building a new infrastructure that helps Ethereum verify more proofs. That's how we started, doing something very specific, that is receiving a bunch of zero-knowledge proofs and batching them in one single one of them, so we can send only one transaction to Ethereum saying, hey, all of these proofs are correct, and the only thing you need to do, Ethereum, is check one of them.
So let me see if I get this right. So there's an Ethereum blockchain.
Yeah.
But then you're almost like building a separate layer.
Yes.
Which is not exactly layer 2,
no.
But it's just a separate verification layer.
Yeah, specialized layer.
Specialized layer. I don't even know how that's possible, but you gather or aggregate all the, which is seemingly very inefficient, having to check thousands of computers at the same time, but you aggregate that so that main Ethereum layer can just check one.
Yeah.
Right?
You check one, but it actually is a message that has
exactly
hundreds of others.
Right. Yeah. Which sounds like a great idea.
Yes, it's a way to amortize cost, make things cheaper for everyone that wants to operate on top of Ethereum, and also faster. Because if you do that on your own, you need to create a bunch of proofs on your own.
Yeah.
This actually benefits from economies of scale, right? The more people that join this system in particular, the cheaper and faster it gets.
Yeah.
But that's how we started, saying, okay, we are going to do one very specific thing that internally what we say is, we did the bandwidth moment for verifying zero-knowledge proofs. Before you had like the broadband, right? On the internet, a certain speed at which you could communicate. Ethereum by itself can verify certain amounts of proofs. What we're building is an infrastructure that helps, instead of the internet, in this case Ethereum, say, okay, we can have more capacity in order to verify all of these proofs. But this is something that we already have live. And what we realized is that part of helping Ethereum scale and help many people that we know and our clients in order to build on top of Ethereum, you don't only need to build this kind of specialized infrastructure. That is just the first step. We need to offer a whole stack solution, kind of like in Web2, you have all of these software services where you can easily launch a web page, your own web application or servers. There was not in the market something that was similar to many of these things like AWS, Heroku, but for building stuff on top of Ethereum. So we say, okay, we're going to create our whole stack solution in order to allow many of these people we know do a one click and start building on top of Ethereum and using the infrastructure we already built.
Is it really just one click? Because
we're getting there.
Yeah.
But yes, I think we will be in a point where it's going to be as easy as WordPress.
Wow.
Still with some differences, because where you're launching is an application that potentially can move millions of dollars. And when you're launching maybe an application where you're showing your shop, there's a difference between the security things you need to take care of and many other stuff, right? But the idea is that the easier you make it, the easier it's going to be to onboard more people to Ethereum.
Right. So my question is, how much cheaper is it? Like if you have this already specialized layer that's doing this verification of zero knowledge proofs at scale, like how much does that bring down the cost, the verification cost?
90%.
90, that's a lot.
That's a lot, yes. So we are verifying proofs for cents or less than a cent sometimes. We have different ways of achieving this. In one way, this is cheaper and faster. In another way, it's a little more secure, but a little slower, and you need to pay an extra fee. Right. But the whole point is having these two services to allow people to decide which one is better for them, right? And this is the first step for allowing people to send more proofs. What you want is people to be able to say, okay, I use Ethereum because it's convenient, it's easy, and it's secure. So the better infrastructure you build on top of it, enhancing the features of Ethereum, the better, the easiest is going to be to convince people to build on top of this thing.
I see. 90% is a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like you already proven that it's possible.
Yes. This has already been running since the last week of November.
Right.
And we already have in testnet the second product that is a little more robust and secure, but a little more expensive. And this whole stack that I was mentioning is already being built and already in testnet as well. Probably by the end of the year, we'll have our first client running their own rollup on top of our whole infrastructure.
So what sort of gives you and your team that edge when it comes to the competitive advantage? Are you guys the only one able to do this, or are there a lot of competitors in this space?
Yes, so there are many companies that build rollups, right? Their solutions. Part of the interesting thing is the technology moves very fast, and many of these teams build with different features and trade-offs, right? In the rollup world, you have two different options. You can use zero-knowledge proofs, or you can use something called optimistic proofs. What's the difference? An optimistic rollup, what they say is, hey, I'm running a computer, a blockchain outside of Ethereum, and I assume that my operator is doing things correctly. Now, what I should be able to do is allow anyone to dispute what I'm saying on Ethereum. So if I'm lying or doing something malicious, anyone can stop the system and say, hey, what you did is wrong. I can show you that you're wrong. And we can go back and avoid the malicious actions you did. The problem is this is actually, today is more expensive. When people chose this avenue, it was cheaper and more easy to build because it didn't require many advancements in cryptography. It was more kind of like an implementation issue. But zero-knowledge proofs, what they say is the opposite. It is for every action, every new state of our system that we have outside, we need to create this certificate showing that things are correctly. So in terms of security, this is more convenient because everything I do needs to be backed by the proof. The issue was that the technology was a little immature. It still needed a few enhancements and improvements and discoveries in the field in order to make it easier to build this type of systems and make it easier to use, because it required to have like internal teams of cryptographers, mathematicians, very hardcore engineers. But the technology got zero-knowledge proof code so good that now is going to be the standard, because the technology got commoditized. You no longer need a team of cryptographers and specialized people to use it. Anyone
that
can use
fast.
it. Yes, it got that fast and that easy to use. So we said, okay, we come from the AlignLayer comes from a company called Lambda Class that worked with many L2s on Ethereum, especially in zero-knowledge proofs. But we saw everything and say, okay, in the last couple of years, the technology got really good. The technology is getting commoditized because things are getting robust, are getting standardized. Why don't we build a whole solution knowing that this is already the case? We do not have technical debt in terms of we are building something from scratch, knowing that zero-knowledge proofs are the best way to verify that the state of rollups is correct. We know that the bottleneck for zero-knowledge proofs is not on generating the certificates, but rather in verifying them. So we build a system to verify many of them. And we know that rollups can be decentralized, and I will explain why, and can be interoperable with Ethereum. The rollups that we had like in the first stage of the history of Ethereum, they were centralized, meaning you run a very big server and is run by one of these rollup companies, but it's kind of like a separate blockchain. It shows to Ethereum that things were done correctly, and you can move your money between Ethereum and this rollup quite easily, but it's still a new system. It's not part of Ethereum. It's a system that relies on Ethereum and benefits from Ethereum. But there are new technologies that what they allow you is have rollups that are kind of like first-class citizens on Ethereum. They have the best features of Ethereum. And what are the best features of Ethereum? That is secure, that is decentralized, anyone can participate and run things, and it never stops. When something is decentralized and actually well implemented, it's something that runs 24/7, and it doesn't matter what happens, the system will 100% be available. That's one of the core kind of features of Ethereum. Compare, for example, to something like Solana. Solana has downtimes because it's a little more centralized. The trade-off they made them have certain outages. Ethereum never had one. And rollups today can have them because they're one server. It can get saturated. So the Ethereum community found ways of making rollups that are decentralized, 100% available, and that are interoperable with Ethereum. And
when did this happen?
This happened in the last year and a half.
Wow, okay.
So we look back and say, okay, this is all new, and we are 100% sure, or new stuff could come up, but we are very committed to making sure this actually happens. And we're going to build things from scratch, knowing that this is the case, that you want rollups to be as good as Ethereum, like trying to minimize the trade-offs. So if you interact with a rollup and you build your own financial system on top of Ethereum, you get the best of Ethereum. Rollups are a way to sell access to Ethereum. So if you want to sell access to Ethereum, you need to make sure you're selling the best of Ethereum. If you use the other rollups, you get a lot of stuff that are very good of Ethereum, but you do not get every single feature of Ethereum. And for that, you need to be able to access the liquidity of Ethereum. That means being interoperable with Ethereum, being decentralized, and also be scalable. Because what you want is our capacity.
So does AlignLayer, do you guys build your own wallet as well and everything, or?
Yes. So what we build is saying, okay, we build the whole software for our own rollup. And we also, by doing this, realized that what we need to add is certain software kind of as a service products that they allow the people who want to build their own rollups have access to wallets on demand. Meaning if you have your own users just need to get into a platform, do a Google sign in, and automatically get assign a wallet. So we solve the authentication for them, we solve the execution, that is a rollup, and we solve the verification. That's why we're saying we're building a whole stack solution on top of Ethereum.
What if, and I don't even know if it's possible, is it possible for your layer to get potentially hacked? And does that affect the Ethereum layer?
Yes, of course. It's very common in crypto to get hacks. What you can do is, and what we're doing is build kind of safety systems or fallbacks. If one of the hacks happen, making sure there's like a protocol of stopping the system, making sure that the money involved is not at risk. It can happen. It's very common, and luckily we can rely a lot on the Ethereum community and the standards that have been built in order to minimize that risk. But yes, hacks can happen, and when you build companies in this ecosystem and everything, you need to be very paranoid for sure. And the clients who we're working with are more institutional-like. For example, we're working with a company that what they are solving is identity.
Wow, that's important.
Yeah, in Latin America. So it's called Sobra. They already have, between all of the clients they have, their clients are local governments. Why? Because identity is a local issue.
Yes.
Right? I don't know how it's here in Korea, but at least in Argentina, when you're born, your parents go into the hospital and they register you.
Yep.
And that's a local kind of system. Then the nation builds a way for that to communicate with everything. So they are helping local governments upgrade their identity stack in order to use Ethereum and zero-knowledge proofs. And for us, it's okay. They are extremely important client. They have millions of users. We're talking about 7 million potential users today. They already running in testnet, and we're working to try to make things go into mainnet as soon as possible. And their clients are trusting them with something very critical, that is identity of their citizens.
Important. Yeah.
So security is a very important thing for us and for them.
Because otherwise you end up exposing all these identity millions.
Luckily, the way it's designed, we are minimizing the risk. And there has already been a version that they built a few years back that has been running in the city of Buenos Aires for quite a while. So you have verifiable credentials for your driving licenses, for example. So the credential is in your phone. And when we were talking about proof that you are older than 18, this is kind of like this. You have the credential in your phone and you can generate a proof that, hey, I'm actually, because I have this credential that was created by the local government, when I create the proof, what I'm saying is this credential is valid, and this credential says I'm RJ and I am older than 18.
You know, the funny thing to me is that the average consumers or users, they will never look under the hood and then realize that one day all this stuff, crazy stuff, tech stuff is going on. For them, it'll be very simple user experience, right?
Yeah.
And you're almost like building that infrastructure, but people will never appreciate the extent to which that you guys have innovated. That for them it's just so easy, but they know it's secure. They don't understand anything, but it just happens.
Yeah, and they shouldn't understand it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the people. That's what when we are talking with people, we're saying is, hey, we're a B2B company. Our job is making sure the people who have the users and who have the end relationship with the user have all the tools they need in order to protect their users and build the best product they can. And that's why we're offering, for example, you mentioned wallets. In this case, they have 7 million people. They need a very easy way for them to start using wallets. Like, these are people who, their users have no idea what's crypto. And they need something very seamless and scalable that works for our client that is onboarding all of these users, and it works for a user as well. So we're building the tools for them. And we notice that what they are asking for actually is other clients we have, they're asking for the same thing. That's how we're building our Lego, right? We're noticing common patterns and problems across the people that want to build on top of Ethereum. So That's why we say that our business is to sell access to Ethereum. And that requires many different tools. So we're building on top of Ethereum. Like, our whole thesis is the world is demanding Ethereum, and it's something that it has been happening. That's why you can see the asset actually increasing its value, but also we're seeing adoption. Like, the United States, one of its priorities is making sure the regulation is upgraded for a world where things are moving on chain, on Ethereum and other blockchains. And the world actually chose Ethereum as the main blockchain. Like,
really?
Yeah. Most of the stablecoins issuance is on Ethereum. So we see that we are true, but like, we believe a lot on the ethos and the values of Ethereum and its vision. And we say, okay, we're going to focus just on building on top of Ethereum. Whatever we do is in order to help people get access to Ethereum in the best way possible. So AlignLayer, what it is now an ecosystem of products and services that help this. Before we started with this very specialized service that we mentioned for amortizing the cost of verifying proofs. But now it's more than that. It's the whole stack that we were mentioning. So it's not a separate L1, it's not a separate blockchain. It's an ecosystem of products and services in order to offer the best features of Ethereum to our clients. And I think we're helping them. What is happening is, if the world is demanding Ethereum, there are people across the world that what they want is to upgrade certain protocols and products in their local countries, in the internet, and they need the right tools in order to upgrade their system and their world to Ethereum. And we build a stack to help them upgrade these services to Ethereum.
So right now, what is sort of the biggest challenge for you guys when it comes to perfecting this AlignLayer?
Yeah, so the main challenge has been actually the UX and the developer experience. That is, it's a challenge in terms of crypto was very, I wouldn't say the word immature, but it required like a new facelift in order to do this. Most of the solutions that we mentioned before, the other rollups, they were not made for other people to run them. They were made for one single party to run them. And they didn't want to get commoditized. What I mean is, they wanted to have the unfair advantage of being able to run them by themselves. They tried to improve it, but it was still very difficult. And to be fair, it was also because they built very early on, and we had the advantage of being able to learn from them. So the main thing was realizing what things need to be simpler and making sure it's as easy as running a server in Web 2. But that requires time. We're very optimistic, and I think we're getting there. We're not that far away.
But right now, it's still a little bit challenging.
No, I think it's quite good.
Okay.
We're very proud that we made something that is very easy to run. And we come from a background of very software engineering focused philosophy, kind of like you mentioned Linux, for example, right? The whole internet runs in Linux. And one of the things we value a lot is minimalism. Everything we write needs to be able to be understood by other engineers and by other teams. So things are simple to run, simple to read, simple to audit, and simple to build on top of. And this is very important, because what you want is you want to lower the friction of another party being able to use your tech. You don't want to add friction. If you add friction, you scare them away.
Yeah.
And if you make things open source, they're easy to read. It's easier for a CTO of a company when they need to review many different solutions. Okay, they can sit, read the code, make sure that it has the right characteristics of what is a good software, and that is easier to convince them to use us and to get on board on top of Ethereum.
So then, is it possible for this to be a proper business model, for example? Because it sounds like what you're doing is very altruistic, and then it's adding a lot of values. But then, as you said, you want to get rid of your competitive advantage by making sure that this is as accessible to everybody as possible. It's all open source. So how do you make money out of it?
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing. what we believe we've realized very early on is when the tech is getting commoditized, that means the old type of doing business for the people who had the fair advantage of having that tech and the rest not, that changed. So we realized very early on that our model was B2B, kind of like what Amazon Web Services does.
Yeah.
It's very profitable service, right? It helps people scale their Web2 services, make it easy to run, make them super available. And we're going on the same route. We're saying, okay, we're building the whole tech so it's easy to run, do it on yourself, but we're also building the services that benefit from economies of scale, for example, in order to help everyone to work directly with us and on top of the services that we're building, like the different layers that we're building on top of.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think things are moving very fast and we're very open and pragmatic. If we see a new technology comes or we realize there's a new way of making things even more sustainable, we'll grab it. We know and we understand very well we're on the cutting edge of this. So we need to be very open-minded about it.
Is that part of your rationale for, I suppose, being in Asia and then you're doing like an Asia tour? Are you seeing a lot of demand from a lot of businesses and enterprises in Asia as well?
Yeah, so we have partners here actually, and there's always the same issue. And they're working also with other people that have the same issue, is things are still not easy to run, the whole solutions in order to build your rollups. And the whole idea for us is building the solution so things are easy and cheap. And I think the whole world is realizing that Ethereum is an important deal. And we can see already a lot of countries are doing stable coins and they want to build their own financial ecosystems. And the best way to do that is by building on top of Ethereum. And that's why we're traveling, because we know that will happen in many different places. And we want to meet the people that realize that very early on, so we can help them use the best tool in order to do this as fast as possible and in the most secure and affordable way, right? And that's why we want to travel a lot and meet with a lot of different people.
I see.
It's kind of like what happened very early on the internet. Everyone is realizing the internet is huge. And people here in Korea start building things for Korea. Like, okay, I want to go to every single one of these places and show them, hey, you can use this. You have a new toolkit.
And do you feel like, what you guys are like presenting to potential clients, it is sort of like very cutting edge that they've never seen anything like this before?
Yes, but we are making sure it's very easy to understand. When we present this, we are presenting a solution that what allows them is to get the best of Ethereum in one click. They should just understand that when they build with rollups, they're building on Ethereum. They're building part of Ethereum. We are the ones who then decided what's the best way to actually make sure that's possible, right? The other solutions that we had in the past didn't have that features. They were not decentralized, they were not interoperable, and they were not maybe as performant as we're making things. So yes, we're talking with a bunch of people. One of this was the identity company. And we're also working with some partners that are helping countries in Africa upgrade their systems as well. Because many of the issues that exist across the world is the systems you have are black box, and even some countries cannot even trust their whole infrastructure. Because you have people in the middle making decisions, but they are not audited. And when we talk about scenario proofs, what we mention is it's like having an auditor in a computer. So what you're doing is improving the whole system where you put this technology. And so, yes, things are getting adopted. We see that adoption is getting very fast and it's accelerating.
In your mind, give me the top 3 use cases that'll just change the game, like not just in Asia, in Africa, but if this works, like what will be like the top use cases that will start people seeing dramatic differences? Yeah,
so I think they're free. One of them is, we already touched them, identity. I think in this age of AI, I don't know if you notice, I'm a very internet native guy. I have been using Twitter, Reddit, everything since very early on. And I think social media is no longer a social network. It's not always you're not interacting with humans almost anymore. Like
It's all bots.
yeah, it's all bots. The algorithm, you have the algorithm that it helps you with the experience, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like you're interacting with other people. You're just getting content constantly thrown at your face. You can find ways of using that on your benefit, right? But at the same time, things change. So what is lacking on the internet? A way to make sure that you're actually a human being.
Yeah.
Because I think we do want to interact with human beings.
I think that too, yeah.
Yeah. So you need a new authentication kind of system or layer to make sure that happens. And we're very lucky to work with one of the companies that is doing that from a different approach. There's a very popular company, I don't know if you know, WorldCoin.
Oh, really? I actually interviewed Alex.
Okay. No, we're not working with them, but they have a different approach from our partner.
That's right.
Sobra.
Yeah, they want to be able to
Yeah.
make sure that there's a proof of identity stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. They use zero-knowledge proofs, for example.
Yeah.
And their approach from getting adoption is having their hardware distributed across the world. In Argentina, for example, is very popular.
Really?
Yeah. And you onboard them, and they have a way to prove that you're a human being. It has certain things and trade-offs I particularly don't like. Yeah. But their approach is more consumer focused because you're adopting each human. Our partners, what they're doing is different. It's more business oriented because they're going to the people that run the identity parts. And they're saying, hey, guys, your system is outdated. We have the solution in order to build your services better for your citizens and also making sure it's future proof because your stuff it is not adopted to an area of the internet and an AI as well. Both things, because many systems are very old. When you want to interact with a system and you do KYC, you're showing everything. You're scanning your passport. You're giving all the information to one company.
Exactly.
And even if they're regulated, audited, or whatever, they can still get hacked, and you're still trusting them a lot, and you're moving. And it's not only inefficient, but also the UX is not kind of web native. Because when you interact with one service, then you need to interact with another KYC when you're using another application. So it's not composable or interoperable. So I think identity is one of them that is people are starting to realize is a huge deal because the internet is changing.
Yeah. I think for me, the advancement of AI, especially with agents coming up, I think it's almost like, I think you touched on something very interesting, which is people's identity, let's say, needs to be protected. Yeah. But then if there's one central body or company that they say they're like, oh, we're not keeping any of your maybe just a metadata or something like that. But ultimately, the governments will demand something from them, or they could get hacked. I think that's a serious concern. But at the same time, what I'm wondering is, say, if you went to the governments of around the world, like Chinese government or something like that, do they even want to use the type of services when they know they will not be able to control it? You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yes.
And so it's kind of like you have a competing, almost like a conflicting priorities, where you know that it's the best solution for them, but they also don't want it because they cannot control it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I understand what you mean. There are two things there. One is, in this case in specific, they're still saying the identity is this local government. Like, they are not changing that. Right. Because that naturally happened, human beings in society. Like, we needed a way to make sure you're someone who is registered in our society and exists.
You're a citizen. And
you're a citizen from this city or from this country. So they are just helping them improve it in itself because the systems they have are very outdated.
Yeah. I think that's the most important thing you need to make it very
that's
clear.
Step one. Making sure that what they have is better.
Yeah.
And making sure it also complies with what they need, because they also, not everyone that works for decentralized authorities around identity, or in some cases even money, they also want to protect their citizens. I believe someone from a local government wants to make sure their people, especially in local governments, it's even easier to understand because they live in a small town and it's their family, their neighbors, and what they don't have is the money in order to build something in-house that it works, and they didn't have something easy to use in order to protect them and offer a better services for them because they want to offer a better service. So they have been doing an incredible job saying, okay, I'm helping you upgrade all of this. And at the same time, that gives your identity, if the government identity system gets upgraded, your experience for your identity part gets upgraded as well. Because now it's designed for a world where you have all of these issues with KYC, with accessing social media, making sure you're a human being. It is a process. I think this is just the beginning. But yes, they are in some cases given a little power, but in others, that trade-off might make sense. And our stack and the people who we're working with, we're making sure things are customizable. So depending on who they are speaking with, they can make the right adjustments for this to happen. But even if it's not a fully decentralized identity system, I think it's very worth it making sure it happens, to make it more secure and to make sure things are have the right technology for the 21st century, for the era of AI, of crypto.
Just a little thought experiment. Do you really think, and I think it is the case, but do you think that decentralized is the only true way that we can actually combat this crazy onslaught of AI just taking over everything? So for example, I even heard that all these future AI agents and their transactions or something like that, maybe that could be on chain, right? In that case, everybody's on chain, including humans and AI agents, right? So in that case, how do you tell the difference? And then how do you assign, and will AI be happy to go along with those protocols with they start revolting against the whole?
Yeah, they go full Skynet.
Yeah, something like that. So
yes, I think that's why I mentioned identity. I think it touches that part. There are two other things about AI. One is, we mentioned that what Bitcoin did, and then Ethereum continue to do, is making sure money is kind of like a native on the internet. And if you are a software, an AI agent, you need a protocol to move money. An AI agent cannot have a bank account. Imagine doing the KYC.
But they will have their virtual wallet.
They will have a wallet, and then there are many teams working on that. And for that, you need an on-demand way to create wallets, so it's easy for an AI agent to access those.
Right.
But then there's another question, right? Like, let's say you have an AI agent that works for you, and you give it money. How can you be sure it's actually working as it's supposed to work?
Good question. I don't know.
Well, luckily, we have zero-knowledge proofs. Every single decision you make is audited.
Right.
You're 100% sure it works as it's supposed to be. What happened is zero-knowledge proofs were a little slow, and they are still not there to make sure every single action of an AI agent can be proven and verified later, right? But the trend is showing that things are going to get really fast and cheap, so you can have that, and that's going to be like a firewall for all of these things, right? A firewall for AI agents, for LLMs, making sure things are working as they're supposed to be working, even if you're not looking at them, right?
So that's pretty incredible. Now I'm starting to see the potential of why improving this, layer like yours, by improving the scalability, it could also help verify AI agents sort of work and everything as well. Which is, it's kind of mind-blowing.
Yes, if you rely more on a technology, which is happening, I use ChatGPT, Gemini, all of them a lot. To be honest, we are trusting them a lot. And
we
mentioned, right, like the way to lower trust between humans and services is by using Ethereum and zero-knowledge proofs. So I think at some point this will happen. We know a lot of teams are working on this, and it's going to be great because in many countries also I think there's a lot of discussions around national security issues. What happens if you hack the training of one of these models, or you're in the middle between the communication of a user and these services? How can you check that you are actually talking to the model you paid for, or your country is sure?
Yeah.
you need a firewall or a way of making sure things were done correctly. So cryptography and Ethereum might not be super excited maybe for the end user, but at the same time, we are very convinced it's something that we need if we keep going into this trend, if we want to avoid security issues and kind of a dystopian world. I think we have a manifesto that we wrote in Align.
Yeah.
That what we're saying is, okay, we need a new tools to make sure truth keeps being truth. Like you can.
So important.
So
yeah.
For that, you need this new toolkit, right? And Ethereum was the first step, and it's going to be very important for that.
So you guys are working on that already?
Yeah, so the solutions we're building helps that. We are now primarily focused on more the financial part.
Yeah.
Because crypto is being used primarily to be a financial backend, right?
Yep.
But we believe the next few stages are AI, identity that we're starting working with. It's going to eat every single part of the technologies where trust is an issue. And I think we are in an era where you cannot even be sure that it's very good that we're speaking face to face because you're sure it's me.
Yeah.
But if we're in a Zoom call, you cannot be 100% sure.
Yeah, scary thoughts. But I think it's already happening, right?
Yeah, you got a lot of hacks with that, right? Companies are redefining the way they're doing hiring because in many cases they hire hackers that then they put malicious code in their systems. So these things are getting accelerated. Like I'm pretty sure someone will build a new LinkedIn. LinkedIn doesn't even it's no longer useful for hiring people because
just too fake. Yeah.
Yeah, it completely changed. You cannot verify the person is who they say they are. You need verifiable credentials. When you do an interview, how can you be sure you're actually talking with the real person if it's online?
Right.
And we already adopted the internet. We're not going back. Yeah. We just need ways to improve what is broken today. And I think AI is helping accelerating a bunch of stuff. We love that technology and we use it every single day. But at the same time, it's breaking many things of social protocols and many things that were not possible before. Banks even rely on you scanning a piece of paper with your signature.
Right.
You can ask ChatGPT to create a picture of a similar contract or whatever. I don't know if you saw, there was a trend of employees submitting fake expenses.
I have a philosophical question for you, which is something like we kept talking about this trustless system where supposedly, I think as human beings, we are inherently distrustful of another fellow human being because you just don't know what that person's going to stab you in the back or something like that. Maybe there's emotions involved, conflict of interest or zero-sum game. But then I feel like humans actually trust machines more. Like they now pretty much from people I talk to, ChatGPT say like they're God or something. Like they believe anything that ChatGPT tells them. I'm like, you know that's actually mostly wrong, right? Because it's just an inference model. But why do you think that is? Why do you think this inherent, almost like human nature of you don't really trust anything? And fair enough, because again, on LinkedIn or whatever, you don't even know what's true anymore.
Yeah.
Well, journalism, like media, it's literally just all coming down, man. So, like, how do we? Is this like a fundamental human issue, or?
Yeah, I think it is. Like, if you, this is very philosophical, and I like this type of questions. Actually, I believe the main unlock of blockchains, what it allows is a technology that unlocks new ways of coordinating between each other. Because when you want to coordinate with someone, you need to trust someone. So if you lower the trust assumptions and the cost of trust, you make it easier for us to interact between each other. And I think that comes from an evolutionary thing, right? Where you need to coordinate with someone else from your tribe or from a different tribe in order to survive. And machines were sure they were built to fulfill one purpose, and they were not going to be moody one day or feel shame or whatever that will change the way they're working. So the issue is you shouldn't fully trust all machines. You need a way to make sure the machine is doing what they're supposed to, right?
Yeah. And humans. So this is what I really like about even the whole, the zero knowledge proof or verification process. Like this whole blockchain is almost like you don't have to trust another person to get the transactions done. Like it's gonna work the way it's supposed to. You don't, but you still trust the process or the verification process without having to trust another person. I think that's the key here.
Yeah, that's a huge unlock. Like for us, for example, our company wouldn't be, apart from the technology and the service we're building, we probably would have never been able to build it if we didn't have Ethereum, because we use something called stablecoins, right? And in Argentina, getting access to dollars and interacting globally is a huge issue. Like it's not easy. So this technology, for example, for us, allowed us to coordinate and people to trust us as well, far easier, because we were talking in the same protocol as them, even if we were in a country that had different rules that didn't allow us to do business with the rest of the world in an easy manner. So I think lowering the trust, the cost of trust, if you see humans across like the history of humans, this has been one of the main things. Every single time we create a new technology that allow us to process information better, but at the same time also coordinate better, things improve for everyone. And many of the things we build in governments and all of these things, it was to solve trust issues between our society, like creating a new company and making sure if you have the right audit for the accounting, having laws for doing a contract between parties. All of these things were to make sure people could coordinate in a zone, in a trust zone, in a very easy way, right? And what blockchains are allowing is everyone to be able to coordinate between each other with a certain set of rules that we can all agree, without having to build a government in this case.
I'm particularly interested here, since you brought up Argentina, I'm particularly curious about how your worldview was shaped by your upbringing in Argentina. So maybe for those who might not be too familiar with the history of Argentina, including myself, you could just briefly explain what kind of environment Argentina was in terms of its currency, how you grew up in that environment, and how it shaped your, I suppose, worldview about cryptocurrency and the blockchain.
Yes. So, for those who don't know, Argentina is a country in the south of the world, South America, very far away from Korea. And it has we have a history of being very bad at managing our own currency.
How bad?
Really bad. Like, meaning we had hyperinflation at least 2 times in our history. I told you that when I was 3-4 years old, one of the first things they teach you when you're a kid is to save in dollars. Like, I was 4 years old, and my grandma, when she gave me like a small gift for my birthday, was, okay, you need to start saving. This is some pesos. You need to go ask your father to exchange it for dollars.
So US dollars.
Yes, US dollars.
Right. Because you cannot trust your local currency.
Yeah, our local currency gets devaluated a lot. And at that time, I think the dollar exchange ratio was 3 pesos, $1. And today we're talking about 1,300 pesos, $1.
That's insane. Crazy. Yeah.
It is insane. It's completely insane. And it's very hard for people to live in a world with that inflation, because it's not easy to save. For business, it's crazy. Imagine running a business trying to make sure you put the right prices for your whole year.
Yeah.
If you run a supermarket, a convenience store, or whatever you're building, it's super hard. And then if you're an industry that is exporting those products outside, your cost is constantly changing.
Yeah.
And apart from that, Argentina took very bad decisions that, in order to try to fix this issue, and the medicine, what they thought it was, restricting capital instead of allowing capital to flow between Argentina and other places.
Okay.
So they say,
sounds like a complete socialist type of a policy that.
Yes, but it was made by people who said they were socialists and for people who said they were capitalists.
Right.
Argentina is a crazy country in that sense. Hopefully it can change. But for us, that shapes us a lot because we cannot trust the people who make decisions with our currency. And that means the value of the protocol of money where you are, that is in Argentina, is like a very bad protocol. It's not a good technology, let's say. And luckily, we had access to the internet, and everyone with internet has access to Bitcoin and has access to Ethereum.
So when you first came across Ethereum, you must have been like, my God, what the hell is this?
For me personally, it completely blew my mind.
Yeah.
I first started with Bitcoin. I particularly have a worldview a little more, in my case, a little more libertarian. So I was fascinated by the whole monetary system thing. And I value something that blew my mind is that Bitcoin was the first thing that it was the first system that created private property without relying on a government.
Okay.
And that was insane. Like anyone can access on the internet like a good property right. Anyone, like you just need a phone or whatever and get access to the internet. Doesn't matter if you live in Kenya, Argentina, in the States, we all have that same right.
Yeah.
So I was obsessed. I completely got obsessed with that. And then Ethereum would allow us extended that to make it programmable. You could build many things around it. Like in a country where you have a constitution, you build the basic rules.
Yeah.
But then you have a lot of other laws, regulations, and systems that allow you to create a full society and a full economy.
Yeah.
Ethereum unlocked that for crypto. Bitcoin was kind of like the first constitution, and then we have something more flexible and programmable. And that's how I got completely obsessed with it. And many of the people, the other co-founders and the company where we come, many of these people are also, everyone has a different political view, but we all agree that this technology is good for the society because it protects humans.
Yeah.
It gives you a fallback mechanism in case if you live in a world or in a place where many of these things are granted in the first world do not exist. And at the same time, it also improves the societies where they already have many of these is granted. It also comes to become more efficient and easier to build. So I think that's why we really like this. And I think it relies a lot on making sure you understand that you cannot trust everything.
Yeah.
In Argentina, we're very, we do not trust government.
That's wow. That's like 1,000 times inflation type of thing. But then again, today I will talk to my parents and maybe the older generation's mind says, yeah, but we still got to save money. I'm like, you do realize that the rate at which printing money is far outpacing whatever you can save. Like, there's literally no point of saving when, I don't know, the price of eggs and all the like grocery items are just doubling and tripling like every year or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know how your parents' attitude is like now that you're working on this super crazy tech, but then think just ordinary people. Do you think they get it? Are they still very much in the mindset in Argentina? We're like, oh yeah, we'll just save whatever we can and then.
Yes, the sad part about inflation and this situation, there are two things. One is Argentina got isolated to markets. People do not have any financial education. Like the stock market is not now it became more of a thing, but it's not that big. People live very informally because of taxes and all of this capital control and also inflation. People use a lot of cash.
It's like mainly cash economy.
Yeah.
Wow.
A part of it, right? But
probably same in a lot of Asian countries too.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. That's why I also wanted to travel. I wanted to see how if they have similar issues, right?
Yeah.
And that meant that the only way people save money was having cash under the mattress.
Okay.
But you still have the inflation of the US dollar.
Yeah.
And assets improve in value, but you couldn't because you had cash and you didn't have access to the global financial market.
Yeah.
You couldn't buy stocks from Apple. You couldn't buy, it was not easy to buy even gold. You need to go and buy physical gold maybe.
That's right.
So people buy land, cows, like Argentina is a huge, and the people who can afford to save, right? There's a lot of people in Argentina that even don't have that option. And the people who are more wealthy, they buy apartments, that kind of stuff. And what I always told my parents and people who have friends is like, if let's say you want to buy an apartment for your kids, right? And you live in Argentina, are you 100% sure they're going to still live in Argentina when they are 30? Giving an asset, the asset is in Argentina. That means it relies on the crazy rules of Argentina. And if they live abroad, what is better, to have an asset that is in Argentina or to have an asset that is on the internet, like Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, for example, for me, what it allowed is I couldn't access stocks. I tried to open a bank account. I couldn't. I was 18. They didn't even pay attention to me because the financial system in Argentina is not good. And buying Bitcoin was easier than buying a stock. So it's a better UX.
Yeah.
It's not only, it has these amazing features and values that I believe in, but it's also literally a better product.
Yeah.
So if it's something is easier to buy, you're allowing a lot of people who didn't have access to save, to have new systems to save money or buy different assets. You can buy Bitcoin. You can use Ethereum to get access to lending markets where you can put your stable coins and get a yield in a very safe way. That was not possible before. So I think that changed the life of many people. And that's why we realized very early on, because we started using the technology, that it's going to be helpful for us and for others. Like that type of problem exists not only in Argentina, in other places as well.
I feel like now everything that you just talked about is just starting to click and make a lot of sense now that I understand a little bit about your background. What you're effectively doing is you could potentially fix the entire country of Argentina by implementing what you're doing.
Yeah, hopefully yes.
Like you should be advising the government or something, you know?
Yeah, with Argentina, we are, I think we'll see what happens in the next few years. We are very proud of being Argentinians. And
do you feel like the country's now on the kind of right track?
Yes, it depends on which decisions you study, right? We just believe this technology is helpful for everyone. Hopefully, people can understand it, and we're not also building the technology. We're trying to educate as well, a lot. So we'll see what happens. But we're very grateful. Like, not only the company operates outside of Argentina, we have our clients outside of our country. We're a global company. But many of us are from Argentina, and we got educated in Argentinian universities, the educational system. Even if we have all of these issues, at the same time, we're very grateful that many of the opportunities we had, it was because we had access to a certain level of education and everything that was possible in Argentina, even in this crazy environment we're talking about, right? So yeah, hopefully this can help solve many of the issues we have. And we're talking with other people that want to help particular issues in Argentina, and they might use our tech. For like, we have a company that they want to do NFT ticketing, and they need a new payment system for that.
Right.
So, yeah, we're very proud if I would be very proud if that happened.
Wow. Would you say there's a lot of like, not just engineering, but like just talent coming out of Argentina?
Yes, of course. I'm very proud of my country, so I would say that, but I honestly believe we have a very good pool of talent. Argentina has a very good level of engineering in general, and in math as well. And we were very lucky to have many people from our company being trained, and they learned there. So hopefully with this tech we can help these things as well. And we were able to compete with global companies from the end of the world, right? Argentina is the southest country in the world.
That's so cool. I love that. Yeah.
There is something that was very helpful for us, clearly, and I think we're very grateful for that. Like, we are able to discuss and sit with people from top universities in the world. Many of that talent, technical talent from my co-founders, is all from Argentina. So, yeah, we're very grateful. And we're very proud as well.
What would your advice be to sort of your next generation of, entrepreneurs or from Argentina who, because, let's be honest, like even if because in Korea, I think or in Asia in general, I think there's a lot of technical talent, But I think starting a company or being a founder is a whole another story. So if anybody's thinking about starting a new company or building something new on their own from Argentina, what would your advice be for them?
So I think the first thing is to understand that your level of education and worldview is valuable. You can compete with anyone. And in Argentina, actually, not speaking with us, we're just starting, right? The company where we come from is way older, has 10 years old, a Lambda class, and it's already a very well-established company and super successful. Right. And it already showed that you can build and compete with anyone. And we're a spin-off, and we are in the beginning. But there are many big companies like Mercado Libre, I don't know if you heard about them, they're from Argentina. Traditional engineering companies were all from there. And I think the main advice is that you can trust the tools you have. Like our educational system is quite good, especially if you survive it. There's a survivorship bias.
That's another important thing to just not die.
Yeah.
when you try something, you just keep going, right?
Exactly. But with that crazy environment, I think you are forged to be very flexible and pragmatic. So I think that's very important, and they shouldn't feel like they are less than anyone. Like, there are many bright people in Argentina with a lot of courage, and they can compete with anyone, I believe, and especially with the internet. Like, we both have more or less the same tools than Elon Musk. We have Rock. We might not have his billions of dollars, but with crypto, even you can, like, you're from Argentina, you have access to a financial system that anyone can have access as well. It's on the internet, it's crypto. So things are getting easier for people to build from all over the world.
Yeah. I think that advice is also applicable to even people from Asia or Africa, anyone. Right? Because I think it is absolutely true that they think, oh man, I'm not from America. How am I supposed to do all this without, let's say, even like funding, or I don't have that kind of a Stanford education. So I think they have a lot of the chip on their shoulders, right?
Yeah, and the internet completely changed that. The internet changes the informational part and AI as well. Like anyone from Asia, Argentina, Africa, or Europe, or even between the US, someone who doesn't go to an Ivy League, have the same tools that a guy who goes to the most expensive university in the world. You might not have the network, but now with social media and everything, even if it's breaking, you have a way to access and interact with a VC, a venture capitalist, or anyone super interesting. Like, they are available on the internet. You have a way to expose yourself or create content and show people that what you're doing is valuable. So I think that is amazing. That is lowering the barrier of entry to start competing on anything you can do. And there's bright people all over the world.
Right. So maybe the first thing is just don't overthink try to get rid of that inferiority complex, and then just try.
Yeah, try. It's difficult. I mean, you have been building a company, media company for a while, right? And I'm a new kind of founder. But yes, like you should not have fear of trying things and falling. Of course, it's different, right? In many cases, I understand that some people, their family relies on them, so
that's another thing.
I think the more tools we give people, the easier it will be for them to make these decisions. I think I'm very optimistic of the future of society in general.
I can tell. Yeah. So, lastly, where do you want AlignLayer to be in, let's say, even next year? Because you guys are moving so fast. Like, is there anything that you're, putting out, introducing to the market? Like, what are you guys working on?
So the first thing we want to do is put our first clients directly on mainnet. That means live in production.
Yep.
And show people, hey, we actually said we're going to do this. We have the technology and we have the first people who are running it. And that's important to show first that we actually achieve what we were saying that we wanted to achieve. And at the same time, we're going to learn a lot from it. And we want to have more information so we can improve in it more and go and speak with our second client and put in production as well. We're also working with a fintech company in Europe that they help SaaS companies access cash in exchange for cash flow in the future. And they need access to this technology quite fast. So the closer we get to production with one of our first clients, and we show the world that it's working, the easier it's going to put even more people. And I think next year will show that you can build rollups while maintaining the best features of Ethereum. That is decentralization, 24/7 global access, security, and access to the liquidity of Ethereum. You can have the best of both worlds, right?
And do you guys have a hard deadline where it's gonna be
Yeah,
launching?
I think in a year we'll have everything that we wanted to achieve.
Wow.
At least the first versions, right?
Yeah. Either way, it would be very exciting to see. So I'll be keen to follow the progress. But for today, I think that should be it. So thank you so much for your time. And yeah, really excited to see how this progresses. So
thank you very much for having me.